how are we doing? I'm George Treadwell and I'm here at Linbrook Fisheries. Now I absolutely love my fishing and I particularly love fishing out on the continent, big public lakes, rivers, canals, Raisbury, and I also love my true whole passion is fishing day ticket complexes. So you join me down in the heart of the New Forest at Linbrook Fisheries. I've been invited down on a short session and I've arrived first thing this morning, had a good look around the lake and it is looking absolutely stunning. Now there's only a couple of anglers on and they're sort of fishing sort of this area of the lake, sort of the area where you first come in, first through the car park. We've had a good look around and we've seen some carp moving in and around the island around pegs sort of 8 and 9. So we've just got here, had a good catch up with the owners, a good look inside the shop, which stock a fantastic range of CC Moore products. He's also advised us that pegs 8 through to 11 have been fishing quite well, so it'd be silly to ignore the advice from the owner, and it would also be silly to ignore the signs that we've seen already showing in around the island. So I'm going to go and get the kit out of the van, head off to the swim and flick out some rods. Now I think to begin off the day, or start the day, we're going to start fishing in peg 8 up to the front of the island, see how it matures, see how the day goes, see how it unfolds, and if the fish start moving, then we've got options to move into pegs 9 or 10, depending on where the fish move through to. Now we've got just over 24 hours to hopefully put a few nice fish on the bank, so wish me luck here at Linbrook Fisheries. I've barrowed all my gear round into peg 8 and it's evident that the fish are sat right in front of this peg. Now there's a little island out in front of us and fish seem to be milling around that island. The temperatures have really got up this morning, approaching lunchtime. Now I haven't gone in heavy with a bait, all I've done at the moment is just put out a couple of solid bags and then just to check the depth, all I've done is just cast out a 2-ounce mini lead to try and just fill the drop, and it is really shallow up against the island. Now because the fish are milling around and the temperatures are up, I've also flicked out some mixers to see if I can try and get them feeding off the top. It's not happening off the top, so I'm going to stick to the bottom for now, but what I'm going to do is fish a little bit match style today, try and get them fish feeding, and by that I mean I'm going to put out probably 1 catapult of boilies every half an hour. I'm going to prep my boilies now with some mega ingredients from CC Moore to just give them a little bit of an extra boost, and fingers crossed, well, I'm feeling pretty confident of a bite. I'm going to prep my boilies and I want to put maximum attraction to the area. At the end of the day, this is a day ticket venue. There's a lot of people that come here and there's a lot of people that just put boilies probably straight out in the lake. So I always want to maximise my opportunity of getting a bite. And there's no better way than adding in some naturals, some powders and some liquids to my boilies. I've been looking a lot through the catapults and it looks like people are just nicking the odd one-off fish here or there. There's loads of fish out in front of me and the last thing I want to go doing is introducing loads and loads of bait and spook them out of the area. So by using 10 millers and introducing bait frequently, little and often, my game plan is to keep them in the area and try and keep picking off fish as and when I can. So going into the mix, shelf life 10mm Pacific tuna boilies, a little bit of the liquid tuna compound over the top, and then for good measure I'm going to throw in some of the bait booster. And then because I don't think anyone else is doing it and not many people use them and it's a mega reg, I'm going to be using the frozen water snails. So by adding the liquid tuna compound, it's made them boilies nice and tacky, which means I can add in a little bit of powder, which is going to stick nicely to them boilies. Get a few of these little bad boys in. Quite, it smells fishy. I'm not going to go too heavy on them. And then because them boilies are now tacky, they'll all stick together. Look at that. I've just made up that little mix and I've opted to use 10mm boilies here because it's obvious that the carp are out in front of us. I don't need to put big beds of bait in to be drawing them in. They're already here. Having them extra boosters in there and the snails, all it's going to do is encourage fish to get their heads down and get feeding. by having the snails in as well. It just adds that little element of crunch, that little bit of noise traveling through the water, hopefully bringing even more carp. Putting out 3 or 4 catapults in the areas that I'm fishing, and then every 20 minutes, half an hour, I'm just going to add 1 more catapult to just keep topping it up throughout the session. So last catapult going in. So that's the last catapult now gone in. Let's sit back, enjoy the afternoon, get ourselves a cold drink, and I'm feeling pretty confident that we're going to get ourselves a carp. So there's a little bit of bait now trickling over the top, and while I'm waiting for a bite, I thought it'd be a great time to show you the solid bags that I've been putting out, the rig that I've been using, and the mix of pellets, because it's really important about what you're actually putting into your solid bag, because fundamentally you want something that's got maximum attraction and aids in you packing that bag so you get the most out of casting, accuracy, and something that ultimately that fish want to eat on the bottom. Now, the rig that I'm putting inside my bags is a little tiny German rig, all using Ridge Monkey components, and it's the most simplest rig I think you'll ever tie. Now, the reason why I like to opt for this with a supple hook link is that when the fish comes along and it picks up that mouthful of pellets, it's just going to suck in that little mini Northern Special yellow wafter, and the fish just can't deal with it. So going into my mix, and it's really important that you have a good variety. I've got the Pacific Tuna PVA bag mix. I've got in there some squid pellets, some bloodworm pellets, some krill pellets, and I try and get a whole variety of sizes as well. Now, you might think there's a lot going into that, but I assure you, by having the different ranges of the different flavours, it's going to leak off different attractions through different times of the day, through different water temperatures, and them oils are going to flow up and down the water column at different levels. And ultimately, what it's doing is it's bringing the fish tightly in on my spot. Now, to finish off my bag mix, I'm putting in a large amount of the krill meal powder into the mix, and what this does is it aids me in compacting the bag nice and tight, eliminating any air, and also it's making it really aerodynamic so I can cast it a really long way. So there we have it. That's all the components that I'm using this session, and I'll show you quickly how I knock up a solid bag here at Linbrook Fisheries. So fishing the lead drop off style, I'm going to put a little bit of pellet in the corner of the bag. Now, the reason why I'm going to put a little tiny bit in the corner is that when I drop in the hook bait in, I'm going to rock it back onto the hook bait side, and all that's going to do is just pinch the hook bait in the corner. So when I fill the bag, the hook bait's not going to travel around and cause many problems. You'll notice here I'm pinching the lead against the seam of the bag, and this is really important towards the final stages of making the bag. Now I'm going to put a couple of handfuls of pellet in, all that mixed pellet, all that goodness, all that powder, loads of attraction, and because of that powder in there, it's going to help when it comes to packing down the bag and getting it nice and tight. So once all that pellet is in there, I'm going to drop the lead in, use the lead to push down some of the pellet inside the bag, and then again, this bit's really important, I'm going to push the lead in and amongst the pellet up against the seam of the bag, and again I'll explain a little bit more about that in a second. So once that's pushed in nice and tight, there's still a little bit of a void there, so I'm just going to fill that little bit of void with a little bit more pellet, packing it down with my fingers nice and tight, and then as I do that, I'm just going to squeeze down, turn, squeeze down, turn, and I'm going to keep going, getting all them pellets and all that powder nice and compact. And as already you can see, we've got a really nice compact type bag, but to aid that even more, we're going to keep knocking it down. Again, little twist, pack, knock, and twist. There we go, and it's getting all that pellet, and you can see there it's getting really, really tight into them corners. Now I've got a little bag there, a little over the size of a golf ball, and I like to use the PVA tape because it just makes, again, getting this bag even tighter. And as I turn it round, I'm pulling it down towards the bottom of the bag, making it nice and compact. Cut that off. And now I'm going to put it between my legs just so I can grip it with my knees. And I'm going to do 3 overhand knots. 1, without breaking the PVA if I can help it. 1, 2, and then the third one, doesn't really need it, but I've got into the habit of doing it now. 3 for luck, I suppose. And now we're just going to trim away the excess PVA around the stem. That's it. You want to get this bit nice and neat. There's no point in having too much PVA out there, more than you need to. So just get that nice and neat around the top. Now we're going to pack it down even more. So we've got the seam along the bottom of the bag here. We're going to lick and stick that over. So fold that over. Push down in the corners and pull up. And these Ridge Monkey PVA bags are really, really pliable, so you can really give that a good pull. And by getting it nice and compact as well, you will notice that there's not much air in the bag. This just helps in getting that solid bag back down to the bottom of the lake even quicker. So there we go, push and pull, and then lick and stick that corner. Bit more saliva on that. Just hold that for a second. There we go, as that's drying, both sides are drying. You can see there we've got ourselves a really nice, compact, hard little ball, which is going to cast really well, sink really quickly, and there's going to be a nice little parcel of bait waiting for the carp to come along and have a little feast. I mentioned about keeping the lead at the back of the PVA bag, and it's really important to do so. So I've kept it on the side of the seam, and the reason why I do that is then when I come to inject the bag with a liquid, and in this case I'm using the matching tuna liquid, I'm going to roll the bag over, and then I'm going to make one incision in the bag, and then using the syringes that you can get, I'm just going to inject loads of the juicy liquid inside the bag, again aiding in maximum attraction. Now by doing that, I now know that when the air escapes out of the bag as it's sinking, it's going to come out of that one hole that I've created where I put the liquid in, and it's always going to land on the seam, lead side down on the bottom of the lake bed. So that way I know that my rig inside the bag is going to be fishing every single time with a neat, nice parcel of bait all the way around it. We've given it a good stab at it this morning. Unfortunately, nothing has happened. It's getting on about 4 o'clock now, so I'm going to bring the rods in and I'm having a little move. Now where I'm fishing, it's really, really shallow, and the weather forecast is due to change throughout the night. And I can't help but feel the fish are going to move off this shallower area into a little bit of deeper water. So there's one peg round the corner the peg fishes to a very similar area, very similar body to the back of the island, and then it fades away into slightly deeper water out into the middle of the lake. I'll tell you what, that peg looks so much more my cup of tea, and it is really inviting. I fish a lot of large gravel pits, and my style of fishing is finding a spot, putting a few spoms on it, and then fishing 3 rods nice and tight. So I'm going to abandon this corner now, move round to the new peg, find a spot, get some rods wrapped up, and get a little bit of bait out there. Some people on the other side of the lake having a bit of a laugh and a giggle. Sounds like someone's having a good time on a social. Me and Keith, the cameraman, have had a lovely barbecue, having a couple of drinks, just watching that sun slowly drifting away behind the trees behind us, and the temperature has started to drop a little bit. Now I've made that move, one peg round, and I'm feeling a lot more confident here. I've managed to get 2 rods out on a heavily baited spot, my kind of style fishing, so I've put a good maybe 2 kilos of bait over the top, and I'll go through that little mix tomorrow that I've put over the top of them 2 rods, and then I'm fishing 1 rod not far away from where I was fishing earlier, but just a little bit more deeper water up near the island. Now the next course of action, I think, is just going to be sit back, enjoy the rest of that sun going down. We've finished a lovely barbecue, maybe another beer this evening with Keith, and I'm already starting to see some promising signs out on that baited spot. So wish me luck. I'm going to sleep tonight full of confidence, and hopefully I'll be seeing you in the night with a carp or 2. Well, a very good morning, and check that out. It's my first Linbrook Mirror Carp, and it come off that baited spot really early this morning. I'm looking a little blurry-eyed, it's because I am. I had a good night's sleep last night. I was rudely awoken not long ago with this guy. Now last night was a little bit uneventful. I thought a little bit more would happen, but it didn't. And this guy came to that heavily baited spot that I had the utmost confidence in. I'm already getting a few liners this morning, and in the morning mist, hopefully I can be playing another one shortly. So it's been a little while since we caught that fish, and I'm going to adopt a bit more of a different tactic today. So yesterday I kept putting out baits sort of every 20 minutes, half an hour, and I'm going to do something a little bit similar today, fishing a little bit more match style kind of fishing. I get the impression that there's a lot of people that come to this venue. It's a highly pressured day ticket venue, but since my time being here, not many fish have been caught. That being said, a lot of the pegs have been occupied and nobody has really been putting out any bait. So today I'm going to do a couple of spoms every 20 minutes, half an hour, and in them spoms I'm just going to really put a good mix of bait out. So you'll notice here I'm using 15mm chop boilies, which give a real nice texture to the fish. Also the difference in weight, and you'll see there the different sizes as well when it goes through the chopper. You've got some really big ones and some tiny little slices. To add even more texture and even more different shapes, size, weight, I'm going to add in 10 millers and a load of 15s as well, whole boilies. We're going to give that a bit of a mix, add in some extra booster, and that's the liquid tuna compound. In it goes. It's a really thick liquid, and it's so good because it's so thick and heavy, it gets down with the bait. When the bait sinks down through the water column, that liquid's going to sort of drop down with it, and it's not going to cloud up too much and disperse. So that's the kind of mix that I'm looking for. So stodge it up even more, just a little bit, and if fish do come in and clear me out, I'm going to put a bit of powder in there. So if the fish do come in and clear out all them baits, then there's going to be a little bit of residue and a little bit of powder on the bottom. As that drops down through the water column as well, that powder is going to break away, and it's just going to aid in bringing the fish down to the bottom of the lake bed and feeding on the spot. There's my mix. You'll notice I've made it in a collapsible bucket, and I do this for good reason. Bait is expensive these days, and I only want to make up as much bait as I need for the session or the period that I'm fishing. So now I'm going to put out a couple of spods. I've probably made up enough bait there to do me, what, 4 or 5 spods, which will do me for the next couple of hours, and then thereafter I'll make up more bait as I progress throughout the session. But there we have it. Good little spod mix. I've already got enough snails in there. Right, let's get that out on the spot. I'm going to set my watch for every half an hour as a timer, and we'll go from there. There we go. Just 2 spoms going out. That's the first one. Hit the clip on the spot. Just give it a little shake, bring it back. The reason why I'm only doing 2 spoms is because I just want a little bit of noise going into the area and just a little bit of fresh bait trickling down. I've seen a lot of times when you've been sort of snag fishing or fishing in the margins, or you're out stalking and you can see through the water clarity your bait's on the bottom. If you leave it 10 minutes and then you just throw in a couple of little baits, the fish come in and investigate it. And I can't help but feel it's exactly the same on a venue like this when you're putting a spot out. It's dead quiet out there, there's not much wind on the lake. So for a carp out there hearing a spot hitting the surface of the water, they're gonna come and investigate it. There you are, second one gone out, absolutely beautifully. And with that bit of fresh bait trickling down, just adds a new little bit of scent into the area, into the zone. And hopefully we'll pick up a carp. Now I've set my watch for every half an hour on a timer. That's 2 spods every half an hour. And if we get a fish in that time as well, we'll keep topping it up as we go. But there we go, that's it, just 2 spods. I've got enough bait made up probably for the next hour, and then we'll make up some more bait as and when we need it. So unfortunately, that is a close to the end of this 24-hour session here at Linbrook Fisheries. I've had a fantastic time. It's been a really hard session, but hopefully you've picked something up along the way as well. We've gone through a few tips, hints and tricks of how to maximise your fishing. Now, like I said, it's been an exceptionally hard session. I think it's been a hard week altogether this week on the lake, so I was very fortunate enough to have that fantastic looking mirror this morning. I've only got a short period of time left, so I'm going to finish collapsing down my kit, get it packed away in the van before the rain comes in. And thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button below, leave a comment maybe on where you would like to see us fishing in a future episode.